Okay, we're going to begin looking at Chapter 2, Sections 3, 4, and 5 of the reading notes. And this is the chart that you had to look over and fill in the blanks. The first one, let's just start with the different forms of government. And gang, this is really important that you need to know this, because the activity that we're going to begin, launch ourselves into starting tonight as your homework, but then also next class period, is going to be putting what you have learned into practice. Okay. What good does it do to know these different forms of government if you don't know how they work and how they're actually applied? So you're going to get an opportunity in the next class period to conduct a mock constitutional convention. And I really like the fact that we do it in Chapter 2, this mock constitutional convention. Then in Chapter 3, I think we can have a better appreciation for what our founding fathers, actually Joseph Ellis refers to them as founding brothers. And I'm beginning to really buy into that. That they weren't founding fathers, they were really founding brothers. Of course, I also really buy into the fact that Joseph Ellis says, I think they pretty much made it up as they went along. But what good does it do us to not understand how these are applied? So the mock constitutional convention that we'll launch ourselves into next class period is going to depend heavily on your understanding and knowledge and possession of the correct information on this chart. So here we go. Section 2.3. These are looking at different forms of government. Forms of government. So at the top there where it says Section 2.3, these are different forms of government. And we have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different forms of government that this textbook tends to focus on. So let's start with the first one, monarchy. Somebody give me a definition of what a monarchy is. Yes?
The ruler exercises supreme power based on heredity or divine right.
Heredity and divine right are the two key things there. Heredity and divine right. We've already established through Mr. Knive's question of who becomes King of England after the old lady kicks off over there, and I would probably have just insulted so many people in England and British Isles right now by calling her an old lady, but that's okay. She is old, yeah, and she is a lady, so hey, you know, no offense intended. Hereditary and divine right, but also understand, where does all power reside in a monarchy? One individual. There's one person in charge. Very streamlined, very, very efficient. Okay? The King of England, or the King of any country, or give me an example of a modern day monarchy. Which one does it talk about in your textbook? Saudi Arabia. There's really no discussion as to what Saudi Arabia is going to do. The King of Saudi Arabia says this is what we're going to do. And everybody says, okay, you're king. So there's pros and cons for each one. It's a very efficient way. However, the quality of leadership can vary dramatically from one generation to the next, meaning the next person in line can be a complete idiot. But the flip side of that is, if you have an idiot on the throne, then guess what? Maybe the next guy will be a little bit better. Similar but different is a dictatorship. What is the subtle differences between a monarchy and a dictatorship? Yeah. Exactly. A dictatorship runs, and the question of legitimacy isn't, well, God put him there, or Daddy was king, so therefore he gets to be king. A dictatorship takes it by power, takes it by force. So remember back to Alvin Toffler's three forms of power. They take it by force, and they hold it by force, using the military or the police. Okay? So law and order is a really good thing. I mean, that's taken care of in a dictatorship. Nobody steps out of line. Otherwise, they get the smack down. Okay? But also, are there issues with a dictatorship? Yeah, understandably, it has a negative connotation. Generally, when we hear the word dictatorship, we're like, ew, yeah, I don't want it. Okay? Give me an example of a modern day dictatorship. Yeah. Fidel Castro. And that's an example of a dictatorship that's probably losing its luster and losing its power. Yes, sir. Kim Jong-il, my man with the pompadour in North Korea. I'm digging the hairstyle, not digging the ruling style. Complete, total dictatorship? Yeah. Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, absolutely. Pre-U.S. invasion of Iraq with Saddam Hussein. We got that. Moving on. Theocracy. Theocracy. Give me a modern day example of a theocracy. Iran. Iran went through a revolution in the late 1970s where we see a religious party coming into power. And the Ayatollah and the religious body is the ultimate governing body for the entire country of Iran. Okay, they elect a president, sure, they have a pseudo-legislative body, but ultimately, it's the religious body. The Taliban in Afghanistan. Do theocracies have to be negative? Give me a positive one. Do we have any Catholics? The Vatican. We don't generally hear anything bad about the Vatican unless we're wanting to bring in a Dan Brown book. And he blows that all up out of the water. Okay. But the Vatican generally is seen upon as a benevolent organization that governs that city. So, yeah, very good. Single party state. Wouldn't America be a lot easier if we just had one political party? I mean, really, think about it. Just have one political party. That's it. Things get done a lot easier, right? But it really doesn't take into accountability to the fact that people have different views, okay? And it does not allow for them to participate in the political process. So, countries like China, Syria, Vietnam, Cuba, all have a single party state. They're very efficient once again. There's not a lot of diversity when it comes to political views. However, because of that lack of diversity, we have issues. Does your book give an example of a direct democracy? What? Say again? Okay, let's establish what is the definition of a direct democracy. Citizens make decisions on government decisions based on popular vote. Okay. Is there an example that's stated in the book of a direct democracy? Switzerland would probably be the closest, okay, in that the people have the most say and the most vote. However, there is none. And why is there no perfect direct democracy? Exactly. You have so many people. Let's take a nation like the United States where we have over 300 million people. Even if you weed out 18-year-olds and under, you're going to still have approximately what? Let's just ballpark numbers, 200 million people. And let's let the majority rule. Number one, you're going to get people who walk out and do not participate in the whole process. And number two, you're going to have mob rule. And plus, it's just not practical. 200 million people? Really? Now, where we actually do see examples of this direct democracy taking place is in the New England states, where we have town hall meetings, okay? Or if we have a student body meeting, where we bring everybody together and everybody has an equal say, and everybody has a vote, okay? I once met a gentleman from Vermont at a workshop in 2008. He says the town hall meetings, still to this day, everybody comes down, everybody has input, and everybody ultimately votes at the end. Yes? Works on a smaller scale, absolutely. Okay, so if you've got, let's say you've got 500 people in a community, Frankfurt, yeah, absolutely. Let's bring the direct democracy movement to Frankfurt. Let's get everybody involved. Let's get everybody participating. Absolutely. Could we do it in St. Louis? Good googa mooga no. Okay, way too large an area. Now, I am going to leave this here for a second. I do want to pull up here. Wrong one. Still the wrong one. Throw enough rounds downrange, you're going to get the right one. Okay. Parliamentary democracy and presidential democracy. God bless you. case you're wondering and it didn't come through on the microphone, Ms. Ortega sneezed. I say God bless you. Oh, I'm sorry. It'll just keep snowballing. Okay. In a presidential democracy, we have a presidential democracy here in the United States, right? We get that, right? We understand that the people, the voters, choose who goes to Congress, and they choose who represents them in the White House as a president, as illustrated on the graphic on the left-hand side. How are we different from Canada? How are we different from Great Britain? Yes, sir. You are on the right track, sir. And let's go to our brothers in the United Kingdom. They go to the polls and they elect the members of Parliament. Parliament, of course, is a legislative branch in a parliamentary democracy. They choose the people who go to Parliament. And then the majority party in Parliament chooses the Prime Minister, which is, in effect, their president. So there are no separation of powers. And you don't see the Prime Minister being a different member from the majority party in Parliament. You would never see, and I'm going to use American terms here, you would never see a Republican president and a Democrat Congress. You don't see that in a parliamentary democracy. That would be like, okay, we've elected a new Congress, and now we choose a new president. Every 2 years, we could go through that. So when you look at the pros and cons for a direct democracy, parliamentary versus a presidential democracy, a parliamentary democracy creates a little bit of instability in that every 2 years you could have a new prime minister. Imagine every 2 years having a new president of the United States. It would be chaotic. So it does tend to create a little bit of instability. Also look at the presidential democracy. The president has to be responsive to public concerns. If he wants to get reelected, he's going to have to listen to us. But there's no easy way to remove an unpopular president. Look at 2004 to 2008. A lot of Americans were upset with the way George W. Bush was running the presidency. Same could be said from 1996 to 2000 with Bill Clinton. People wanted to get him out, but it's not an easy process. I want to look at Section 4 now. And Section 4 is systems of government. And let me explain that a little bit better. In looking at systems of government, there are 3 systems for distributing power. There are 3 ways of allowing power to flow in a government: unitary, federal, and confederal. Give me an example of a unitary system. Japan. Japan is an excellent example of a unitary system. One could also say the United Kingdom, Great Britain. Which one of these is the United States? Federal. Federal. In that you have a constitution, and really, down here, where it says Constitution, I think you could almost put an S there, because we have several constitutions here in the United States. You have the United States Constitution, and then every state has their own individual constitution. So therefore, the U.S. Constitution has power over the regional governments. Jefferson City has to follow the U.S. Constitution. But the U.S. government also has to follow the U.S. Constitution. But then the regional governments have their own constitutions that govern them. And they all have influence over the citizens. There is no country that has a confederal system. I want you to keep that in mind. The United States has seen several examples of a confederal system. Number one, the Articles of Confederation during the American Revolutionary War, our first attempt at self-government, our first attempt at governing ourselves as a nation. It didn't work. And then there's that little matter that we're celebrating the 150th anniversary of, the American Civil War. It didn't work. The Confederate States didn't work. My favorite example is the governor of Georgia. The president of the Confederate States, Jefferson Davis, asks Georgia, we need more men, we need more supplies, we need more everything. Can you help? And Georgia says, up yours, you're not getting it. I'm not sending a single troop, I'm not sending a single uniform, you get nothing. Imagine if a state told a national government, no, we're not helping. There's a reason why confederal systems don't work. Because it puts too much power in the hands of the regional government. It's too much power in the hands of the local governments and gives none to the central government. And finally, economic systems. Give me a local example of a traditional economy. Not so much Canada, no. I mean local, Pike County. Amish, however you want to pronounce it. They are a traditional economy by definition. What is the definition of a traditional economy? You know, I don't know if they pay taxes or not. They probably have to pay sales tax when they buy stuff. Oh yeah. They're going to have to pay local taxes. But as for income taxes, I don't know. I don't think they do. Which is interesting because how many of them have roofing gigs? A lot. So you know they're getting paid. But that's neither here nor there. Traditional economies, it's based on beliefs, traditions. We've always done it this way, so we're going to continue to do it this way. Okay? Market economy, also known as capitalism, supply and demand. The United States, when it's working correctly, is a great example of a market economy. And a command economy, give me an example of a command economy. China, to a point. China is actually going to be a mixture of market and command because they say, ooh, market economy, you can make a big buck. And they like that. However, they also want to control every aspect of it. So it's a mixed economy form. In a command economy, the government decides everything. We're going to make black sneakers. Everybody, there's going to be one kind of sneaker. Reebok. Yeah, see, that's a general response. Nobody likes Reebok. I'm kind of interested. Yeah, everyone's like, ooh, not Reebok. So, what questions do you have over this?